Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood nights. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying,
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. It's time for another episode of Corner of the Galaxy from the Box, the show that gets you behind the scenes of the LA Galaxy and into the minds of soccer reporters and MLS experts. Your hosts for the day are Corner of the Galaxy's Josh Guesman and LA Times soccer reporter Kevin Baxter. Let's start the show.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy from the Box on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a Monday, July 12th. LA Galaxy have an off weekend, but getting ready to head back out on the road for their longest road trip of the season. 3 games coming up for the LA Galaxy, starting with Vancouver at Real Salt Lake, and then Real Salt Lake at Real Salt Lake, and then off to Dallas, and then back home again. We got some information on our live event coming up on July 31st as well. We want to get to that. That's going to be fun. Some team awards coming out, a little bit of Gold Cup talk in terms of the LA Galaxy players who are out there and playing. So we got a little show thrown together for you leading up to our live Thursday show, which will get you ready for the weekend. So a lot of fun stuff to talk about, a lot of things to get to help me do all that is the Panda himself, Mr. Kevin Baxter. Kev, how you doing, buddy?
All right. You see, I got the old school Manchester United jersey on today. This is in tribute to Marcus Rashford.
I like it.
Of England.
I always like when you start out the show frozen too, because it's like people think that like maybe you're just like sitting there really, really still for a second, and it probably takes them at least 30 seconds before they realize that you're actually frozen, like on the video. Yeah.
I'm unfrozen now.
Oh, okay.
See, here's the jersey.
Okay, I was just playing around, but yes, I see that little Marcus Rashford support. Can I say real quickly to all of my English friends, I'm sorry that it went down that way. That's always not a fun way to lose. And to my Italian friends, wow, what that was fun. And the fun part about that, Kevin, was I had a friend who actually landed in Napoli the day of the final, got to the hotel, like ran to a bar in order to be able to watch it just before the game started, so was there for the whole thing. And I'm pretty sure I was still getting videos sent to me at like 4:30, 5 o'clock a.m. Italy time with people still in the streets dancing. So it was pretty fun.
Well, it's really tough for the British, well, the English fans in this case. But they've lost 7 times. They've been eliminated 7 times from a European Championship or World Cup in penalty kicks in the last 31 years. Guys like David Beckham, right. Gareth Southgate, a lot of great players, Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard have all missed penalty kicks, in major championships. So this isn't anything new, I guess, necessarily new for the English fans, but and anyway, Italy deserved to win that game. They dominated that game. They haven't lost in 34 games. They have a 34-game unbeaten streak. I was talking to a guy at Caesar's Palace who runs the sports betting business over there at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas, and he talked about how soccer is just blowing up right now. The reason being, you had Copa America,
right?
You had the Euro, both on at the same time. They both ended the same weekend. And now you got the Gold Cup starting up, but it has a little less action. But he says anytime Mexico or the U.S. plays, they do well. So another thing about the Copa America final before we move on, Brazil played Argentina, right? We know that. Messi finally got his major international title.
Right. A
score from Angel Di Maria very early on in the game, and that stood up 1-0. Messi's won only one other international tournament, and it was a U23 tournament. It was the Olympic title back in 2008 in China. They won that game. They beat Nigeria 1-0. You know who scored the only goal in that game?
Who?
Angel Di Maria.
Wow. So both times Messi lifts an international trophy. It's because of Di Maria. That's kind of cool. And
Di Maria is Neymar's teammate at Paris Saint-Germain, so kind of an added thing there.
Nice.
Oh, yes. And one last thing.
Which you've said 3 times now, but no, I continue.
Yeah, I know.
I like it.
Anyone that follows on Twitter, Galaxy History, which is we were talking about this earlier, right? Galaxy History is a great little thing on Twitter. I saw some post this morning about the guy who runs it, Dan Chapman, as a Galaxy fan. He has a son, Kai, who's 8 years old. Kai has 16 soccer jerseys in his dresser. He has a Gerard and a Efrain Alvarez one. Efrain Alvarez is his favorite player right now, by the way. And so he's a Galaxy fan too, but also an Arsenal fan. Soccer Diva will be happy to hear about that. Anyway, when he woke up this morning and heard about all the racist abuse that those 3 English players who missed the penalty kicks were taking, he reached into his drawer and got a soccer jersey, his Arsenal soccer jersey out, and wore that to school today. It was uniform day. He had to wear a uniform. Didn't wear the soccer jersey. Was reprimanded by the teachers, but applauded by all of his classmates in 3rd grade. For that sort of, I guess, statement of civil disobedience in favor of the players.
I'll say it. I'll say exactly what I said to you whenever you told me that story. I go, it's never the kids that are the problem, right?
Yeah.
The kids always seem to understand it. It's usually whenever the adults get in the way that seems to be a problem. So yeah.
Well, Dan Chapman taught his son well. If you're going to blame the parents, credit Dan Chapman, Galaxy history founder, for this one, because clearly he taught his son well.
Yeah, amazing. He does all that from the other side of the pond too. People, I don't know that everybody realizes that, but he's usually on UK time. Has a job that allows him to sort of do some of that in the middle of the night, which is he's a middle of the night worker. So he's able to stay up and cover LA Galaxy, watch LA Galaxy games whenever they're early in the morning. It's funny, I was talking to a French fan of the LA Galaxy today, somebody who's in our Discord, and we were sort of talking about a bunch of different things, but he was talking about how he has to stay up really late in order to watch Galaxy games, and does it most of the time, but the midweek games he can't do because, he has to work the next day, and he goes, and then I'd be useless, and, that wouldn't work. But I just, the dedication, I mean, we complain whenever I certainly complain. I complain whenever it's like a 7:00 start on a weekday because I'm like, wow, how am I going to get there with traffic? And then there's people who are staying up into the wee hours of morning, Kevin, in order to be able to watch the LA Galaxy. So always sort of fun to keep that in. Let's get some super chats out of the way. Aaron says, this is funny because Kevin and I were talking about this with Michael Araujo in the press box the last time we were there. But Aaron goes, I was trying to remember how Kevin got the nickname Panda, but I blanked. Please remind me. We're still a little fuzzy on exactly how it went down, right?
No, not well, yes and no.
Yeah.
We were talking one time, I forget how Panda came up, but I talked about my increased girth, which has increased even more during the pandemic.
Right.
And how I felt like I was Panda-esque. And then I started joking about how I do like the taste of bamboo, and pandas generally sleep and have
poop.
body
And poop.
functions.
They poop.
Yeah,
yes.
Sleep and poop. And
yes.
I thought, well, I do a lot of both of those, so maybe I am a panda.
Yes.
And it just kind of stuck. And it's funny, too, because I'll be walking around Dignity Health Sports Park and people will call out, Kevin, and I'll just ignore them. And then when they say Panda, I stop and say, hey, how's it going? Yeah,
that's it. So to reinforce, if you want to get Kevin's attention, call him Panda. And then Aaron laughs and says, Panda, fuzzy. I get it. So we were a little fuzzy on the details. The pandas are a little fuzzy, too. I'm going to get this name wrong. It's either Stefan or Stephanie, because it's Stephane. How would you go with that?
Stephanie.
Okay, so we'll say it. Stephanie gave us a $10 super chat celebrating the Italian win as a Scotsman. Also, Pavone apparently headed to Europe, headed to Marseille. Oh, really? Kevin, you know all about Marseille, don't you?
I know. I've been there.
Yes. That one time?
Yeah, I went there to do a story on Frank McCourt owning the team.
Yeah. And
spoiler alert, not popular.
Well, I was going to say not popular here either, so that doesn't really surprise me whenever you get to all of it. So anyway, that's sort of the stuff. There were some things I sort of wanted to pull out, just like Galaxy notes to start the show off and get to. So I want to touch on those before we sort of talk a little bit about some of the other news that's out there. Galaxy, as I said in the intro, start their longest road trip of the year, 3 games. Basically, it's only 2 locations though, and I'm assuming right now, although we don't have the schedule that proves it, I'm assuming, Kevin, they are staying in Salt Lake between those 2 games because they play on Saturday and then they play on Wednesday. Now, they could come home and then they could go back, and maybe there's some beneficial energy to doing that at altitude where, the whole idea is some people say you get there as late as possible so that way the altitude doesn't affect you and then you get out of there as quickly as possible.
That was Bruce Arena's theory.
Yeah, I forget. I think Greg Vanny mentioned that in one of our chats. He goes, I don't necessarily believe in that, right? And it was like, oh, okay, well, that makes some sense too. So there's that. Or do you stay there and you're not going to get acclimatized in that amount of time? So you're basically, your muscles dying off, your fitness is dying off while you you stay there. So maybe they come back and maybe they go. Maybe it is a quick trip going back and forth. But however it is, that's how the LA Galaxy are going to go, and then a trip to Dallas as well. So those 3 games in rapid succession. Again, there were 2 games to start the month of July, and now there are 4 games to end the month of July, with 3 of those games being on the road. In terms of the hardest road trips in the world, though, Kevin, not exactly the hardest road trip, especially the first team that you play should, and I think Galaxy fans would agree, that it should be a win playing against Vancouver again. Although it was a tight game the last time, it shouldn't have been a tight game. The Galaxy get there. A little bit harder playing RSL, and then quite honestly playing a bottom dweller in Dallas as the third game. I think that lines up well for the LA Galaxy to take points from these 3, possible 9 points out of the 3 games that are coming up. I'd be pretty stoked, I think, if the LA Galaxy got minimum of 4 points out of that. And I would think that, maximum of 6. I know people are going to say you win all 3 of those games, but one of those games you're not coming away with a win. And I think it's against RSL.
It's still tough to win in MLS on the road.
Yeah. Yep. People discount that all the time, though. I hear it all the time. Oh, well, you're going to go in and beat RSL at home. Oh, you are. You're just gonna waltz into their place with their fans at their altitude on their ridiculously hard, bouncy pitch that basically plays like turf, and you're just gonna beat them because they're not that good, but they are. They're a decent enough team. And so there's some pitfalls in this next 3 games, but I thought that was interesting. The LA Galaxy, by the way, are one of 3 teams that have Seattle and Sporting Kansas City. The other 2 teams with 8 wins have already played 13 games. So there is a difference there whenever you look at that. So the LA Galaxy, again, being put, I think, in a fairly good situation whenever you look at how many games they've played and the games in hand that they have and that type of thing, seem to be putting themselves, again, over and over sort of in a position to succeed in the Western Conference.
But personnel is going to dictate a lot of that, too. I mean, I know they're going to get Derek Williams back, but they lose Sebastian Lletget. Still going to be without Dos Santos and Efrain Alvarez.
Right.
So, there's going to be, especially playing at altitude, I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on the substitutions, not only the players when they come on, but when the substitutions are made, who it is that you substitute with. So it's like you said, it's not cut and dry. It's not as easy as you might want to think it is just looking at the records.
No, it's not. I mean, this is a tough stretch, and it's going to be a tough stretch in a in a tough setting, which is, like you said, shorthanded. Fisher's not there as a backup, so the Galaxy are relying. So the bench is a little thinner. People Gonzalez isn't there with a thin center back, but like you said, you get Derek Williams back. So I mean, there's lots of things to navigate here for Greg Vanney, and he has to make a lot of choices as well. And I think it's gonna be really interesting to watch this difficult stretch and how Greg Vanney manages those decisions coming up.
Do we know that how many Galaxy players are vaccinated? Are they 100% vaccinated? And I ask that because you're hearing like the Dodgers aren't 100% vaccinated, the Lakers weren't. Are the Galaxy 100% vaccinated?
They haven't told us. I don't know. It was a question that I thought should be asked. But there's also the way whether or not they're going to tell you or not. It seems that the teams who are announcing that they're 100% vaccinated or not are sort of doing it on their own. But you are seeing that some of the Canadian teams are trading players who aren't vaccinated because they know that they're not going to be able to get them over the border back and forth. And I wonder if the LA Galaxy are going to have to eventually go north of the border up to Canada, play any of their teams, play Vancouver, really. Although this is sort of negates that once they play Vancouver this weekend. Whether or not they're going to have any problems, and that's how we're going to find out. I don't know. Can we even ask, is that a HIPAA violation?
Well, I think it's a HIPAA thing. And the Dodgers, for example, we didn't know that Joe Kelly wasn't vaccinated until he showed up at the White House with a mask on. Mm-hmm. Was the only player that had a mask on. The reason I bring that up is if you look around at the Gold Cup, Curaçao had to pull out because not enough players were at past their COVID test. They didn't have enough players to play.
Right.
We know Haiti had were missing 5 players and they played the U.S.
Right.
So there's some COVID stuff going around the Gold Cup, and the Galaxy have, they're going to have Sebastian Lletget out there now with 5 players in the Gold Cup. And maybe the Costa Rican team is fine. And so, Giancarlo Gonzalez is fine. But what if they play Haiti? What if they play a team where there's a COVID infection and those guys aren't vaccinated? Do they have to go into some sort of quarantine? That really hurt a lot of teams in the playoffs last year when they were coming back from international duty. LAFC being one with Diego Rossi, had to quarantine. I think Brian Rodriguez had to quarantine as well. So would the Galaxy be in a situation there with Oneil, Fisher, or some of these other players? Maybe Jonathan and Efrain, would they possibly have to quarantine if they're not vaccinated.
Yeah, it's interesting. Sort of looking at all those different things, and how it's going to go, and I think that's all going to play into what is happening here with the LA Galaxy and sort of how things are going along. One of the other things that I thought was really interesting, in just looking at some of the stats and where the LA Galaxy land, the Galaxy ranked 4th in MLS with goals scored with 20. Behind Kansas City with 24, Seattle with 22, 23, and New England with 22. Galaxy are tied for 2nd in MLS with 20 goals scored inside the 18-yard box. Notice that didn't change. The Galaxy still haven't scored a goal from outside of the box. KC has 21 goals, Seattle 21, and New England 20. So that's all goals scored from inside the box. But the Galaxy are 14th in the league, basically halfway in the middle of the league with assists, Kevin, with just 15, which is, again, an interesting sort of way to look at how the LA Galaxy are playing. The other thing I'd say is the Galaxy are 20th in Major League Soccer in goals against with 18. Seattle is number 1. They've only given up 8 goals this season. And the Galaxy are worst in MLS in shots against with 75. LAFC is currently the best with just 36 shots against them total. So just a whole bunch of interesting things just to tell you how important Jonathan Bond has been, which anybody who watches, we've seen this, right? The LA Galaxy are 5th in MLS with save percentage, 75.7%. So Jonathan Bond is way up there, with Seattle being the best at 81%, and they've gone through 2 different goalkeepers. So I just dug through some of those stats and wanted to throw them out there. Any of those surprise you?
No, not well. Yeah, I mean, the LAFC giving up the fewest shots really stuns me, because they've been an offensive team their entire lifespan, and their idea of defense is when you give the ball up, win it back. It's not to actually play defense. So right. that surprised me a little bit. I was talking to Jonathan Bond last week, and we talked about, if somebody looks at the statistics, how many shots they've given up, how many goals he's given up, they would say, wow, the Galaxy defense isn't very good. This Jonathan Bond guy is not all that great. Mm-hmm. But if you see him play, you have a totally different perspective. And so we talked a little bit about that. And he talked about how statistics are the absolute worst way to measure a goalkeeper. And he's not in favor of statistics in a lot of different ways. But he said a goalkeeper, he said, yeah, I have a lot of saves. But how many of those are shots right at me, or balls that just rolled to me? I picked them up and I got a save. He goes, you have no idea of how tough those saves were. You really don't get an idea of how good a goalkeeper is. And what if the shots, the goals that I've given up, what if they bounced off somebody, or they bounced off the post? It's not really a goalkeeper's fault when that happens. So he said statistics are a really difficult way to measure a goalkeeper. As opposed to, I guess it'd be the same as any other position. A guy who takes 100 shots a game and scores 1 may have a bad shooting percentage, but you don't know what kind of shots he's taking.
Yeah, I certainly understand. Yeah, I'm aware, by the way, of everybody in the chat room saying that there's a huge audio and video delay. We're not seeing it on our side, unfortunately. So it seems to be something in there in the middle somewhere that is happening. So I don't know what to tell you. We'll work on fixing it, but for at least on our side and what we're sending out, it seems to be in sync. So just give me.
We need subtitles.
That's well, especially
we could get like SAP and do it in Japanese, and
we could do that. That's a great idea. Let's go to one of the team of the week winners. We have the guy who's only played 180 minutes in Major League Soccer, already has a goal scored, has played at defense for the LA Galaxy almost as much as he played what his real position is at central defensive midfielder. Rayan Raveloson was named to the MLS team of the week. He gets in there as a defender, as you would expect. That's where he was playing. A little side note that on the bench, Sebastian Lletget also made the bench for the team of the week as well, and played very well. But I mean, we've talked a little bit about him. It's super interesting to see, this guy come in, and Kevin, we're always talking and we're always preaching, hey, everybody, have some patience with these guys. Have some patience with these guys. Let them adjust, let them find their way into the league. And you have somebody like, Rayan, who comes in and apparently doesn't need any time to adjust and is going to be out there bossing, Major League Soccer. At this point, he's shown so well in the first 2 games that he played. And the first game was against Sporting Kansas City, a very tough team, right? Then he comes in and plays against FC Dallas and dominates again. At this point, if there's any drop-off whatsoever, Kevin, there's going to be some sort of, people are going to be like, oh, well, what's happening? What's wrong with him? Because he's shown so well in the first 2 games. You hope it's not just, his adrenaline pushing him forward here, but he seems super comfortable.
Well, a couple of things about him. Remember, he was going in as a holding midfielder. He'd only been here about a week. He was going in as a holding midfielder. That's where he trained all week. I'm assuming I wasn't there, but why would you give a guy two positions to learn in his first week? So that's where he was positioned. That's the interpersonal relationships he had. That's what he had to do. That's where he studied the style of play. And then 38 minutes into his first game, he's a center back, and that's where he goes 4 days later.
Right.
I mean, that is not an easy transition. Yes, I know there's similar positions, and I know Raveloson has played center back before, but he has new teammates. He has different teammates. They're speaking different languages, for one.
Mm-hmm.
And he has to learn the style of play in a new league. So there's a MLS career, right?
Yes.
Zlatan had 3 goals in his first 107 minutes. So, but then again, he's not a center back. But no, I was impressed by the fact that he was able to move positions, 2 difficult positions, 2 positions that require teamwork and understanding. And was able to make that transition, not speaking the language. I mean, I just think it says a lot for what kind of a player he is. And by the way, another thing, speaking of Raveloson and the French players, Bond told me that everybody goes to Sasha to find out what's going on. When they play, like they go to question and say, is this a big game? Is this a rivalry game? What's the history of the Sounders? What have the Portland Timbers ever done? And he's kind of giving a class every week about the next opponent and the tradition and the history and which teams are the rivals. That's one of the reasons Bond was so tuned in to grabbing the crest as he came off the field against San Jose and celebrating, because he had been told by Question that this was a big game and this was the Galaxy's rival and this was a win to be celebrated.
I cannot wait till there's something we're going to talk about here at the end, where it talks about young players versus old players, experienced players, and why Greg Vanney might not go one way or the other, or how that all goes. But the invaluable guy in the locker room like Sasha Klesch not only speaks French, by the way, and can help. Now, apparently not fluent, because I tried to get him to be their translator, and the Galaxy were like, no, that's not going to work, because we really wanted to talk to Kevin Cabral and Raveloson after their goals, right? I mean, that's what we do as reporters, is whenever there is a guy who does something, and certainly the guys who both did it their first times, that's what you want to have happen. You want to talk to those guys. And unfortunately, because it was late in midweek, there was no, a French translator available. And so we're like, well, just get Sasha up there. And like, that's not really how it works. He's able to sort of, fit in pieces and get the general concept across to people and do that. But how important it is across the locker room to have a guy like Kleschen, who not only can tell the guys who are foreign players coming in, this is an important game. We don't like them. The LA Galaxy and San Jose have been playing against each other from the very beginning, and they're the original rivals, and you need to know that. And you need to know that they're going to come over there and they're going to try to beat us. Because if you have a heavily dominated team that, like, especially if you bring in a whole bunch of foreign players that come in, they don't know that stuff, right? Because San Jose right now is more of an underground rivalry. It's not a rivalry at all, if you call it, because I think San Jose became sort of like, they were like, oh, wait, we have to try to win a game against the Galaxy, and they sort of fell flat. That was my take on the last game. But it's more of an underground rivalry. You have to have been around for a little bit to not just look at the bright, shiny object that's over here that's LAFC and LA Galaxy, and that's the rivalry. You have to know that the LA Galaxy and Seattle don't like each other because they played each other in the playoffs a whole bunch, because there's history there, right? I mean, there's these things that you have to know. And Sasha Kleschen knows that, and he can pass that down, even if it's young guys coming on the team sometimes. Some of those guys weren't around whenever the LA Galaxy were playing the San Jose Earthquakes, back in the day. And so Sasha Kleschen is important for a whole bunch of reasons. By the way, Patrick sent us a $5 super chat, says the Google delay is because a Russian sub just cut an undersea cable by mistake. So see, I'm sure that's what it was.
So, yeah, the Russians again. By the way, Stephen A. Smith says all those French players got to learn English, so that should be solved. Also, yes. Greg Vanney speaks French. Maybe he can translate for us.
There is a little. Remember, he said he knows a little bit. He remembers, but he played at. Did he play at Troyes? Is that where he did, or he knew somebody at Troyes? Because I remember Raveloson came from Troyes, and he was like, "Oh, I think I played with their coach or something like that. Yeah, I knew the system."
Well, he played in France.
He did.
And the other thing is I think Kleschen should go around and tell them, oh man, this is our biggest rival every week. Like, yeah. Vancouver, we hate Vancouver, man. We can't stand those guys.
There's a rivalry that goes way back. Way back. Yeah. Trust me. Yeah.
One time a player killed the coach's wife. We got to get him for that.
Anyway, so that's where we're gotten. So very good. And Gerald just gave us a $5 super chat as well. Says, has everyone gotten their tickets for the 31st COG live event? Why don't we just segue with that? Gerald. Thank you for bringing that up. We are holding a live event coming up on July 31st.
That was planned.
I mean, if I put one in there for $5, it was definitely worth it. We have a live show coming up on July 31st, a live event at Taps Brewery in Orange County. The address for that is 15501 Red Hill Avenue. You can just look up at Taps Brewery. At Taps Beers is on Twitter if you want to look that up. We are doing tickets to this, and if you go to our live page on cornerofthegalaxy.com/live, if you go to that live page, there's a link there for the tickets. The tickets are $5. Here's what I want to tell you about the tickets. All right, don't feel obligated to buy them. All right, we're doing it to sort of help us offset some of the costs of hosting and doing a whole bunch of things, and hopefully helping us host the next couple of events that we're doing as well. So, but if you can't pay the $5, which I understand, times are tough sometimes. If you can't pay it, please show up. All right, it's like the honor system. Just show up, come, enjoy the talk. Let's fill it up. I don't care how many people are there. If you can pay the $5, you can. Kids under 16 get in for free, because why would I make kids pay $5? Do what you want with that. But just understand that's sort of what the ticketing system is. I doubt anybody's going to be standing there scanning tickets unless we just want to get a general idea of how many people are showing up. So. Go to cornerofthegalaxy.com, click the live button. It is through Eventbrite, which is, I actually used them for a different event, and I thought that might be cool for us to try. $5, I think it rounds a bit up with the service fees and stuff like that, so it's not tremendous amount of money. But again, I'm being serious. If you can't afford it, please show up, and you want to show up, show up. All right. There also may be a chance that you might want to bring your own chairs at some point. We'll keep you updated as we go. Mike Gray gave us a $5 super chat and said, I'll be there. So that's how you know it's a party. So Mike Gray will be there as well. Kevin, we don't know if you're going to be there or not. We assume you're not going to be because you're supposed to be in the Olympics. And we said we would patch you in by telephone, which we can do now, and all that stuff. Are you getting a delivery, by the way?
Say what?
Are you getting a delivery, by the way? Is that on your side or is that my side? Am I getting the delivery or are you getting the delivery?
I'm not getting a delivery.
Okay, so then the beeping noise is definitely from somewhere around here. Amazon's delivering another thing that I probably didn't need.
By the way, did you tell everybody that you were picking up the bar tab at that?
That is not true. I expect people to be buying me drinks. That's what we're.
Oh, I do hear that beep now, but
so
it's not here. I can't see anything beeping.
Yeah, it's definitely on your side. That's good. Somebody's just delivering something. It's something you ordered from Amazon. You forgot about. It's taken like a week. It wasn't Amazon Prime, which is ridiculous. I don't know why you didn't just order Amazon Prime.
You know what? It might be my Ted Lasso kit, my Richmond AFC Richmond kit.
I got mine. I wore it for the last show that I did. So we did that as well. Yeah, no, it's fine. It just sounds like somebody's either trying to track you down with a missile or maybe, one of those things.
It's the Russian sub.
It is. That's actually Patrick made that joke, said this the Russian sub backing up. So there you go. We'll come full circle with that joke already. But anyway, that's our deal. cornerofthegalaxy.com /live. If you click the live button there, you'll be able to buy tickets. We appreciate you for doing so. And again, if you can't, come on over anyway, because we still love to have you. You can buy some beers. You can hang out, all ages. That's where we're going.
Drink beers that Josh pays for, whatever.
Yeah, well, however that ends up happening. I'm sure. It's also my 40th birthday party kind of thing. We're doing birthday party / that. So I imagine there will be birthday beers afterwards. As well. So starts about 4:30 p.m. Our live show will start about 5:30. We'll go to about 7. We are working on some guests. It might be more difficult with COVID restrictions still in play, but we're working on some things. And as I get those verified, I will let you know what those are. But so far, fingers crossed, I think we got some good things happening. So
did Beckham and Donovan both say they were coming? Or
yeah, David did. He said once this whole Euro thing blows over, he was going to hop on a plane and come on over to hang out. So yeah, we'll see if he shows up. Him, Mrs. Beckham, the whole Spice Girls. Yeah, the whole Spice Girls were actually coming.
Reunion concert.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Let's get to some power rankings that I actually like, Kevin. This isn't ripping on anybody else's power rankings. This is just power rankings that are done with some thought, some insight, and some statistics. All right?
You didn't do them then?
I absolutely didn't do them.
Okay.
At Ben Wright on Twitter puts these out, and I think every time he puts them out, I retweet it and say, I love these so much. And the reason is the factors are points per game, goal difference, XG difference, right, and strength of schedule. Those are the factors they put in here. I think if I had any suggestion to Ben, I would weight it towards, recent results, like last 5 games, right? What happened in the last 5 games to sort of give it that little plus, because you can start to see in 5 games a team trending upwards or trending downwards, and how does that affect your power rankings? But he has the power rankings in, I think, at least a logical order. and it's one based on more data than anything else. So maybe it opens your eyes to some things that you're not seeing. He has Seattle Sounders at number 1. Nobody's going to argue that. Sporting Kansas City at number 2. The LA Galaxy at number 3. Personally, I feel it's a little high, but I can also see why it's there because the LA Galaxy are winning games, and they're winning the games that are in front of them. The one that I think is surprising people right now, Nashville, number 4 on these power rankings. And somebody said, well, these power rankings are useless because Nashville's number 4. Or, Kevin, is it telling us maybe we should pay attention to Nashville a little more than we are? Because I think maybe they're flying under the radar a little bit. So anyway, that's where it is. The worst team that they have here is Inter Miami, which doesn't look great for the LA Galaxy in their first win. But if you look at the New York Red Bulls are at number 10, the Galaxy beat them, right? Vancouver's down near the bottom. San Jose's down near the bottom. Doesn't exactly help the LA Galaxy. So I think if you looked at the strength of schedule on this, the LA Galaxy probably get penalized for that. And still, the Galaxy are in third place overall. I think it's a different way. Somebody said it looks like colorful spaghetti. I can agree with that as well. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know about putting Nashville ahead of New England when New England is at the top of the standings, but I think Nashville is a really good team. They have a ton of ties. I know it doesn't look like they got a ton of wins. They have a lot of ties, but they're a defensive team and they're going to play, low scoring, tight games. And so coming out of those games with ties, actually, I think buttresses the idea that they're a really good team because that's the style that they play. Now they got to win. They're going to get to the playoffs. Ties aren't going to get you to the title. But I think Nashville is a pretty good team. They really need a scorer. They need someone to put the ball in the net. But I mean, their defense with Dave Romney and Walker Zimmerman, they're really good.
They are. They're fun to watch. Walker Zimmerman away with the Gold Cup, by the way, just FYI. So maybe
and he was one of the guys that I thought had the best chance to win a spot on the a World Cup qualifying roster. Just he plays a position of need. He's an offensive threat at that position of need, as he showed yesterday. In the Gold Cup opener. I think he's the guy maybe to watch for a little bit. And it was a big day for Galaxy people. Sebastian Lletget, the captain, played 90 minutes.
Yep.
Giassi Artist, the second fastest player ever to double-digit assist and goal scored, second only to Landon Donovan.
Yep. Yeah. No, I mean, it was a big deal. It was also big if for LA Galaxy fans when Mexico played as well, because both Efrain Alvarez and Jonathan dos Santos played, and Efrain came in the 18th minute after Irving Lozano got injured. So Efrain Alvarez got a big run out with the Mexican national team. They didn't get the result I think that they were hoping for, and I think U.S. fans can certainly maybe understand playing against Trinidad and Tobago and trying to get a win and not getting one. So the 0-0 draw for Mexico, but Jonathan dos Santos came on in the 53rd minute, so he played some of those second half minutes. Efrain Alvarez came in the 18th, so he got a really big run out with Mexico. The United States got a 1-0 win over Haiti. You talked about Sebastian Lletget, 90 minutes, captain of the U.S. men's national team. Oneil Fisher got a little bit of a run out. I think he came in like the 72nd minute of the Jamaica game. They ended up beating who were they playing? Oh, they're playing Suriname. And I think they ended up beating them 2-1 or 2-0. It was one. I was trying to find the results just before we went in here again, so I'll look them up before we have it. I have it on another page. And then Pipo Gonzalez for Costa Rica did play. I think he came in the 89th minute and got a whole minute in there. But Pipo did suit up for Costa Rica, and I think they won their game as well.
That's his first appearance of the year for anybody anywhere.
I mean, it's not great for. He was playing with them in some of their warm-ups and their friendlies, right? He was even starting for them.
Who scored for Costa Rica? Do you know
that? Hold on, I will get it. Ari Lassiter just scored, former LA Galaxy player. I remember seeing that. Jamaica 2-0 over Suriname, by the way, and it was Costa Rica 3-1 over Guadeloupe. So 3-1 there. Lassiter scored. Yep. Campbell scored for Costa Rica. So yeah, I mean, a lot of things. I'll tell you, and maybe this is, just looking at this, the CONCACAF Gold Cup seems like it's some like podunk tournament in the middle of nowhere compared to what the Euros look like. And maybe that's not a fair assessment, but seeing the refereeing already go sideways in these games, I worry about the health of every single Galaxy player that is playing in any of these games, because as we've seen, two-footed tackles can look like they're going to break somebody's leg and it doesn't get caught in CONCACAF, whether it's Champions League or anything else. And, you look at this and you say, okay, some of these guys are going to play heavy minutes. I think Jonathan dos Santos is going to play heavy minutes with Mexico. I think Sebastian Lletget is going to play heavy minutes with the U.S. men's national team. We'll see where Efrain ends up playing, but already they've shown a penchant to put him in places for big name players who are hurt or coming off, and I think Lozano might be out for
He's
a
out
little
for
while.
a month to 6 weeks.
Yeah, so
he may be questionable for the start of World Cup qualifying, which really hurt Mexico a lot.
Yeah, so it seems like it's some backwoods tournament that's being played right now, and whether that's the lack of crowds or whether it's just, I don't know. Again, the officiating for me turns me off from watching the Gold Cup most of the time.
Well, I mean, come on, the Euro and the Copa America, those are Confederation Championships, as is the Gold Cup.
Yep.
So the Gold Cup is the CONCACAF version of the Euro.
Yes.
There is no similarity whatsoever.
No.
Watching those teams play, I mean, you watch Barcelona, you watch Manchester City, whatever, good teams. But the national teams are kind of like an all-star team, because I think most club teams have 1 or 2 weak positions. It's just the way it is.
Right.
But the national team, you get, everyone in your country to pick from. And I think those are the real all-star teams. It's just, that's not a knock at CONCACAF. It's just, man, the Copa America and the Euro, they're just a step above. And it'd be the same if we were looking at some other kind of confederation, the Asian Confederation or the African Confederation.
Hey, the African Cup of Nations is in my opinion, is way more serious than what the Gold Cup is. Like, if you watch those and you see the stadiums and you see it, and again, refereeing certainly not on the same level, and you could say that, right? But it feels amateurly produced in most times for the Gold Cup, and that's where I don't think ESPN did a great job of producing the Euros. I thought their studio show was amateur and downbeat, very like subdued. Like, let's grab a pipe and stick it out. Oh, we're going to talk. Oh, yeah. Let's talk about this.
NPR style.
It was a little bit. It was very subdued, right? And you go over to like Fox, who has, the 1,000 meter on the complete opposite end. I think there's a balance between those two. You see that, but with the Gold Cup, again, it just doesn't feel like it's these big tournaments. So anyway,
CONCACAF will never catch those other confederations, but it's getting better by the having the Nations League and expanding. And you get Guadeloupe and Curacao is supposed to, and Suriname. Yeah, those guys aren't going to beat Mexico now, but they're starting. It's look at Iceland. Was the flavor of the month a couple of years ago.
Yep.
Iceland kind of came out of nowhere. Not really. They got chances to play in big games, and they were a team a lot of guys played friendlies against.
Right.
I'm not saying Curacao and Suriname. Well, Curacao is going to be a good team, but Martinique and some of these other teams, are starting to come along because they're getting a chance to play.
Yeah, no, it is. And that is the fun thing. I also think that certainly U.S. soccer fans and Mexican soccer fans as well underestimate some of these teams on a constant basis, and so I enjoy watching that part of it as well. So always fun, just sort of watch for those LA Galaxy players out there. I think we got you all 5 of the Galaxy players that are missing actually got game time. What do you know? Surprise! But as we go through group play and whole different things, it's always interesting to stay on top of the LA Galaxy players and where they're going. And obviously, if there's any injuries or anything that's sort of interesting, we're going to bring that up here on the show to sort of get you going. So we'll see how long those guys are gone. The final is in August, right? Isn't it August 1st?
August 1st, yeah, in Las Vegas. Sold out.
Yep, sold out Las Vegas.
The fact it's in Las Vegas is actually very good for the Galaxy. It's a very short trip home.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. So we'll see how that goes along. Here's the LA Galaxy weekly schedule, and I bring it up because I see in the chat room everybody is talking about getting an injury update on people. You're not going to get injury updates yet this week. That's not how it's going to work. Greg's going to update everybody on Thursday. That's when we have a media call. And with no games over the weekend, there was no media call this weekend. So basically, the last sort of update that we have was the Tuesday media call before the Wednesday night game, and then sort of the post game media call, and there weren't a bunch of injury updates on that one. So as far as we're concerned right now, everything remains the same. Chicharito will be questionable going into this weekend's game. If he's ready, Greg Vanney will play him. If he's not, he's going to sit him, and he's already said that that's the case. And I know people are sort of sitting there saying, well, he needs to be back and playing. He needs to be healthy, and the Galaxy need to make sure he's healthy, and there's no point in rushing him right now. So that one will be interesting. We also are waiting for updates on Dan Steres, because we heard that maybe perhaps he might be up for this game coming up against Vancouver. We know Derek Williams is back from suspension, so we know that is something that has happened. So, I mean, as of right now, Derek Williams is starting. That probably puts, Raveloson back into the central defensive midfielder. Then we also have to get an update on Sega as well. And so I would imagine everybody is still in that recovery mode, and we will be able to ask Greg Vanney on Thursday. It's always fun to ask. Can we get an update on all the injuries? And then, he has to go through and sort of remember all of them and where they're at. So I always think that's interesting. But that's you expect we'll hear on Thursday, right, Kevin?
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like there's any rush to get Dan Steris or Sega back because, they don't need them. I mean, yes, one of them is going to have to be on the bench as a backup, but they don't have to start and go out and play 90 minutes at altitude. And, when we're talking about leg injuries, muscle injuries, those are the kind of things that linger. Bring them back too soon, and you could have a problem down the road. It could be something that maybe doesn't keep them off the field, but doesn't allow them to play to their fullest capacity for the rest of the season. So I think that's why, right now we're a third of the way into the season. There's a lot of games to go.
Yep.
And the toughest part of the schedule is just coming up.
Yeah, this is it. This July, August is going to be brutal. We'll get over that schedule here in a second. But the other thing I wanted to sort of touch on is the Eastern Conference standings. New England out in front in that Eastern Conference, 24 points, 1.85 points per game, 13 games played. It goes Orlando, Philadelphia, Montreal, Nashville, New York City, and New York Red Bulls. Those are your top 7 in position for playoffs. And then in the Western Conference, it's Seattle sitting at the top again, 29 points, 2.23 points per game, 13 games played. So again, both them and Kansas City, who's in second place, just 2 points ahead of the LA Galaxy, who I believe Kansas City is playing this weekend, but they're not playing midweek of next week. And so the LA Galaxy look like they'll have a chance to be able to, if they can win this weekend, if they can get close. And if Kansas City wins, they might have a chance midweek to jump Sporting Kansas City with that game in hand. So keep an eye on that one as things sort of roll out. SKC with 26 points, the LA Galaxy with 24 points. Just behind the LA Galaxy, Colorado, 20 points. Then you have LAFC, who's climbed up at number 5 now. RSL at number 6. That's another LA Galaxy opponent with 16 points. Minnesota at 7. You have Houston at 8. Portland at 9. You have to go all the way down to Vancouver and Dallas, which, again, are 2 of the 3 games, the LA Galaxy. So if you're looking at this Galaxy road trip as the standings sit right now, Kevin, the LA Galaxy will play the last place team in the Western Conference. They'll play the 6th place team in the Western Conference, and then they'll play the second to last place team in the Western Conference. Again, we said it might be favorable. That's one of the reasons that if you're going to have 3 games against these 3 teams, it's not horrible.
I want to say don't sleep on Colorado, but then I wonder, they haven't really played that tough a schedule yet, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at them, but they are winning games, right? It's the same with the LA Galaxy. They're winning the games that they're sort of supposed to be winning.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I got sneezes. We'll see if that continues. Whew, that was a fun one. I hit the mute button though. Nobody even knew. We could have played it off without it being a thing.
Except you ran away from the mic.
Oh, I did. Ooh.
By the way, let's hope the Wi-Fi is better in Japan so I don't keep freezing.
Don't blame the Wi-Fi. We know why this is. We've discussed this many times.
I got a new computer.
I would like to have a word with the LA Times technical department, and then we could fix this, and it wouldn't be a problem.
If I find a technical department, I'll have them call you.
That sounds good. Give them my number. The other thing I wanted to get to just before, just whenever I was almost done sneezing there, Supporters Shield, LA Galaxy in 3rd. So 3rd in the West, 3rd in the Supporters Shield. Maybe the Western Conference is very top heavy because right now the 1, 2, and 3 teams for the Western Conference are Seattle, Kansas City, and the LA Galaxy. So the top 3 in the Supporters Shield are also the top 3 in the Western Conference. There you go. Patrick says, by the way, I really like it, says Colorado outplayed Seattle for most of their game 10 days ago. Seattle's just that wily bunch right now that refuses to lose. Reminds me of the LA Galaxy maybe in 2010 or 2011, which was, they're just not going to lose a game. When they have a bad day, they don't lose, they draw.
Well, Brian Smetzer is such a great coach. I was talking to someone who watched the game earlier this year, and they watched from behind the net, and they kind of studied. And they said it's really interesting what Seattle does is they don't send players in the box to score. It's almost like football where they send players in the box to attract defenders, opening things up for other guys. That's why they're defenders and holding midfielders and stuff. They're back of, I know they get a lot of goals from Rui Diaz, but they also get a lot of goals from people back up the field because the offensive players running the box take defenders out, and it opens it up for guys coming in off the wings. That's all by design. I think Brian Smetzer is a very, very, as good as he is and as many awards as he won, still way underappreciated.
Yeah, I never thought he would last that long at that position. That's a surprise for me. And I get things wrong all the time, so it doesn't surprise me that I was wrong. But it is one of those things you look at and say, Wow. I mean, he has the team that understands what he wants to do too. I mean, that's a veteran heavy team that understands his system, and he's able to plug in different guys in different ways. They've had injuries and they're still just plugging right along. No Jordan Morris, no Stephen Fry, and they're fine.
Yeah, you forget Jordan Morris, Stephen
yeah.
Fry, but no Jordan Morris. Wow.
No Nico Ladero either. Nico's been out. So I mean, Seattle is a formidable opponent, and as I think we've talked about on this show many times, you don't need to beat Seattle right now. And I thought the LA Galaxy played them really well in their 2-1 loss. At Dignity Health Sports Park. You don't need to beat them right now. You need to beat them whenever it comes time for the playoffs. That's when it's going to be time to beat them. And so you have time as an LA Galaxy team to grow into that. But as of right now, the door to MLS Cup goes through Seattle. And that's what the LA Galaxy have to sort of understand, is that if you're going to make the playoffs and you want them to take a run at the Cup, that you're going to have to go through right now Sporting Kansas City and Seattle. So you don't have to beat them now, but you have to understand why you lost and be able to beat them whenever the time comes.
Well, and for the Galaxy, Kansas City is a tough place for the Galaxy to win, always has been. But for the rest of the league, Seattle on turf, it's going to be cold, could be snowing in the playoffs. They're going to have 40,000 people there. It's a very, Seattle, I think, hasn't lost a playoff game at home. I'd have to look this up, but my recollection from last year when they went in the playoffs, they haven't lost a playoff game at home since 2013.
Yeah.
It's just everything lines up for them when they're at home. The turf, the cold, the crowd. The distance, it's the farthest MLS city to get to. I mean, it's at the top corner of the country.
Right.
I guess depending on where you're coming from. If you're coming from Vancouver, it's not that far. Yeah.
Yes.
Portland. But you know what I mean? It's
Yes.
it's not like in the middle of the country. It's way up there. If you look on a map, it's up in the top corner there.
Over there somewhere. Yes.
Yeah.
No, I know what you mean. So I mean, that's one of the things that certainly you have to watch and take a look at. We talk about the 3 games that are on the road. The Galaxy then will host the Portland Timbers on 7:30, July 30th. That's a Friday night game, which leaves you open for Saturday on July 31st to come to our live event. We will have some giveaways. Did I say anything about giveaways? There's giveaways. We're working on those. We're going to have some giveaways. We're probably going to have some good giveaways. I'm imagining. I am talking to the LA Galaxy, so I would imagine we can get some fun giveaways to give you as well. But anyway, that's that. Then the August schedule comes out. August 4th, LA hosts RSL. August 8th, LA hosts Vancouver. Wow, those names sound familiar. Are they only playing those teams? Is that how it's working?
Sounds like it.
The LA Galaxy on August 14th will travel to Minnesota. Then they're home again. So August is more of the home heavy schedule. They're home again on the 17th to host Colorado. Good matchup. They'll host San Jose on the 20th. We're going to be at the stadium a lot in August, Kevin, but you better buckle up. And then August 28th is LAFC away. So the LA Galaxy will travel to LAFC. Before that is the All-Star game, I think midweek there. So there's a lot of stuff.
So do you think the players that from the Galaxy get elected to the All-Star team, you think they're just going to stay then in LA for the All-Star game and then play the Classico?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're not going to travel the 12 miles back or wherever it is their house. Yeah. Just to stay acclimate to that altitude change. Daniel, by the way, gave us a $20 super chat. Says, thanks to you and all your co-hosts for the great podcast. Keep up the great work in Galaxy. Thank you, Daniel. We appreciate that. Let's get to the one sort of discussion piece that I wanted to get to, and we don't often have times for some of these like fun little discussion pieces as we look, just because the year sort of gets away and we have multiple games to talk about and things sort of get crazy. But as I told everybody on Thursday night, I did a solo show, so go back and listen to that Thursday night show. It was a fun one. Not a lot of pressure there to not have anything over the weekend, so I always enjoy those. I was wearing my Roy Kent jersey. I had my AFC Richmond Roy Kent jersey, so was all set there. And I talked about how the LA Galaxy are looking for a second striker, and they have been looking for a second striker. It's not like this is a new problem they suddenly saw. They wanted to focus on some of the problems that they had, and they have, and now the last one that they have is finding that second striker. But there isn't a lot of room for that second striker, right? It's not like they have a whole bunch of cap space just sitting there waiting to be, paid out to all these guys who are the second strikers. But there's been an argument in the Discord and sort of maybe on Twitter too. People sort of saying, well, Greg Vanney, he's not going to get, like an aging superstar or an aging star to come in and play, second striker. That's not how he wants a young player that's going to develop and be with the team for, the next 4 or 5 years if he's getting a second striker. And I'm sitting there saying, pump the brakes on that. Greg Vanney and Dennis DeCloser are going to find somebody who fits the system for sure, but they're also going to find somebody who they can use. And if that's a short-term use with a lower sort of cash value, cash outlay, then absolutely I could see them going for somebody like, and we talked about Kai Kamara before. Now, I don't think they're going to go after Kai Kamara, right? But He's 36 years old. He certainly doesn't fit we're going to build, something around here. But, Bruce Arena did this very well and continues to do this well. Is yes, you have your core players. You have your guys who are going to be here for the next 3, 4, 5 years. And you keep adding to that as you keep going. But there are guys who are going to be timed out. Sasha Kljestan is going to eventually have to leave this team, right? Like, he's not going to be here in 4 years, right? Everybody realizes, at least I don't expect him to. Sasha may totally prove me wrong. That's fine too. But he's not going to, Victor Vasquez cannot be with the LA Galaxy for the next 5 years, right? That's a shorter term thing. So Greg Vanney has put short term players on the bench before. So I don't think that excludes it. So Kevin, in your mind, is, how does the LA Galaxy find a second striker in this particular one?
Well, I think they could post an ad on Craigslist. That would be where I would go.
Yeah.
You're right. I did talk to Dennis about this after you and I talked about it. And he said, yeah, they're definitely looking for somebody, but he definitely gave me the impression that it was a journeyman type guy, somebody that's not going to cost them a ton of money. Again, someone that fills a short short gap, just a get us through this season kind of a guy.
Right.
The Kai Kamara, I know that name's come up a lot, and it's intriguing. Here's a guy who's very productive, but also a guy that scores a lot of goals and moves every year.
Yes.
And you wonder why that is. That's the internal question. It's, on one hand, it's somebody wants him. He's always wanted every year. Yeah. But he always leaves. And so that means the team's ready to give him up. Why is that? The Galaxy have a tremendous dressing room right now. If there's any question about Kai Kamara fitting in with that dressing room, I would urge them not to do it. They don't need it that much. Who do they get? I mean, you look around and guys like a Corey Bayard who fit in really well at LAFC. Again, a kind of a journeyman guy. Maybe I don't know anyone's out there. I don't know any names that are out there. But I think that's the kind of guy that you want, and those kind of guys can make a difference. You say, well, he didn't score a ton of goals. Yeah, but if he's a hold-up guy, if he can clear some space for Chicharito, that would be a really good addition. The one guy I'm looking forward to see in the second half, or when teams are back at full strength, what's Jonathan dos Santos going to look like when he has a holding midfielder behind him, when he really gets to play that box-to-box role? Is he going to be really good? You're nodding you're shaking your head. You don't think so.
It's such an I sort of, I did the solo discussion about Jonathan dos Santos and what you do with him. I mean, so if everybody's healthy, and that's, we always play that game, that's a big if, right? We always say there's no rule that says everybody has to be healthy. So we have to put that in perspective first. The other part about it is what are you going to do with him because if you have everybody healthy, then you have Raveloson, who you definitely want to start, right? You have Jonathan dos Santos, who you definitely want to start. You have Victor Vasquez, who in my mind you definitely want to start. You have Sebastian Lletget, who you definitely want to start. There's an odd man out there. You can't have 4 central midfielders, at least not in how sort of Greg is playing, and certainly not with all the wingers that they have. And so I look at that and I sit there and I say, like, what is that going to do? How is that going to work for the LA Galaxy? And so, like, even just you saying, I can't wait to see how Jonathan dos Santos is going to play with Raveloson. It's like, well, is he going to get to play with him next year? I mean, in my mind, Victor Vasquez trumps a lot of what Jonathan dos Santos does, and I think Victor Vasquez is super important. I'm not saying there's not a role for Jonathan dos Santos, but who sits on the bench? One of those guys is sitting on the bench.
I think Vasquez does because he's 34 and they're going to play a game every other day. I think he plays a lot. I just don't think he plays every game just because of squad management. Jonathan's been playing out of position and Sebastian's been playing out of position. The other part of that is you might say, well, let Grandsir have a breather, sit him down and maybe push Sebastian up or something like that. You got to get Grandsir started. And he was so close to a goal. Yeah. You almost need to play him until he gets, because otherwise it's just going to weigh on him. And now you got Cabral going a little bit, and he's probably got to stay in there. Once those guys get a goal or two and get a little bit of the league under their belt, then I think then you can squad management and set them a little bit. But I think those guys got to play every week right now.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. But I mean, so even if you're rotating out, right? Even if you say Vasquez plays a lot, but he doesn't play, it's like you're somebody's sitting on the bench every single game. Somebody who could be a starter that means Jonathan dos Santos is sitting on the bench. That means Sebastian Lletget is sitting on the bench occasionally. That means that's what those lineup implications mean. And it's interesting to see that, in my opinion, that with Raveloson there in 2 games, and certainly small sample size, and seeing that we haven't gotten the best out of Jonathan dos Santos, or at least we haven't seen the best from Jonathan dos Santos in the last. Certainly this season, I don't think there's been any outstanding or superior performances by him that you really sit there and go, earning that designated player money. When we watch that play, to me, Jonathan dos Santos seems like he might be an expendable piece, and in a contract year, an expendable piece usually means that piece is not coming back. So I think it's going to be, Greg Vanney's really going to be paying attention to what Jonathan dos Santos brings, because as this goes through the next, year, the rest of this year, you're determining, Dennis DeClosa, Greg Vanney, you're determining what the future with Jonathan dos Santos is.
Well, and speaking of contracts, don't forget Efrain Alvarez is just about ready to sign one of those Julian Araujo type long-term deals that lock him up so the Galaxy can cash in on the transfer.
Yep.
I expect that to be done. It could be done before the end of the month. I know they're very close to having it finished.
Yeah. Oh, with Efrain?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it'll be like you said. I think we talked about it that contract sort of was slowed down by the fact he was going off and playing with Mexico and that type of thing.
Yeah,
so
and I never understood that. I mean, they're in the United States. Don't they have fax machines or email wherever he's going?
Yeah, it very well could be. On this roster now, I have 32 names for the LA Galaxy. Now, the interesting part of this is that we know Eric Lopez is loaned down to Galaxy 2. The other person who got loaned out sort of quietly, which we didn't see in order to put Raveloson on the roster, was Carlos Harvey, who takes up an international slot. It looks like he was loaned down to Galaxy 2 as well, although I don't know that I've seen him play down with Galaxy 2, and I missed the game. I think that was last night or the night before. Looking at all of that, the LA Galaxy have a roster of 30, exactly 30. We were told that Pipo Gonzalez was going to get a green card. We haven't seen that sort of applied yet, so whether or not there was a slowness in getting that, and that forced the move on Carlos Harvey. But right now, Pipo Gonzalez is holding sort of a ghost spot because I don't expect that we'll see Pipo Gonzalez playing with the LA Galaxy this year. I think if you're the LA Galaxy, you hope that Pipo Gonzalez isn't playing, because that means that you went through a lot of other center backs in order to get down to him.
But he's costing them a lot of money.
And I would hope that they're doing everything they can to move him in this transfer window. I don't know if that happens, right? But I think that's the hope. And there was a lot of talk about him going back to Costa Rica to play. And Aula Hensei, I think, was interesting. And the thing. So, and by the way, they're saying that Harvey was on the bench, maybe, and perhaps Harvey played in the last Los Dos game. So he is getting playing time with LA Galaxy 2. But expect that loan happened because they needed that roster spot for Raveloson whenever he came on in order to put him on the roster. So just sort of keep that in mind.
The last minute of the game in stoppage time with Dallas, a lot of guys, I think 3 guys got their debuts, right?
Yes, that is true. Jonathan Perez, I think, Augie Williams, and who was the third?
The draft pick, the defender.
Josh Drack.
Drack, yes.
Yeah, Drack. So yeah, I believe those were the 3 that made their MLS debuts in that last sort of run out game.
Yeah, everyone totally missed that, but congratulations to those guys. I mean, regardless of whatever happens from here on in, they played top tier soccer in the United States. They're professional soccer players now. Yeah,
it was Aguirre, by the way. It was Aguirre who got that debut. It was Aguirre, Augie Williams, and Drack. I think those were the 3 that made their MLS debut. I forgot that Aguirre got signed to an MLS deal, not the loan deal that Josh Drack was a hardship loan. Extreme hardship loan up. So Josh Drack most likely back down with G2 now that the Galaxy are getting defenders back, that type of thing. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah,
I always love to see those guys in any sport make their debut. And there were too many other things going on to ask Greg Vanney, but it kind of looked like, it's the last minute of a game. They're up by 2 goals. It almost looked like he said, "Hey guys, I want to reward you for coming out here and helping us out. Go make your MLS debut," which is a great thing if that's how I would think it went down. That's how I want to think it went down.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. And like we've talked about so much, Pipo Gonzalez really does cost a lot of money. That opens, if the LA Galaxy can move them, that opens some cap space for them. So we're talking about a second
striker. Yeah.
That's it. That's where you're looking for right now. And so again, don't close your eyes to the fact that it looks like Greg Vanney and these guys will be able to fill that second striker role. I just don't know how they're going to fill it. And if they can't, then it's a serious liability for the Galaxy. I mean, we've seen it. I don't think Kevin Cabral is going to be able to play that striker role. I think he plays a winger. I think he can play a winger just great. I just don't know if he's that striker. And so without any depth there, and yes, you have Augie Williams. Yes, you have Ethan Zubak. There's a drop off there.
And we're talking about Chicharito with the calf, the one that kept him out for 2 months last year. It's back again this year. I don't know how serious it is, but if it's bothering him enough now, it's bothering him enough to miss a game in the playoffs, perhaps. And you want to go into the playoffs with Ethan Zubik and Augie Williams as your choices at striker. Nothing, guys, but neither one of them is Chicharito.
Yeah, neither is Chicharito. I agree with that. So definitely. All right. I'm trying to think.
But have you ever seen them together in the same room?
I haven't. So that's something to keep an eye on, right?
Yeah.
Just a reminder, the LA Galaxy will play the Vancouver Whitecaps this game at Rio Tinto Stadium in Sandy, Utah. That comes up at 7 p.m. Pacific time, so that's an 8 p.m. Mountain time start. Kickoff itself is at 7:08 p.m. Most of the Spectrum games, by the way, are on the 8s. Just keep that in mind whenever you're looking. So if it's a 7:30 game, it's 7:38. If it's a 7 o'clock game, it's 7:08. But that game will be on Spectrum Sportsnet. No whining. You've been told beforehand. Get your VPNs or do whatever you need to do in order to find the game. So we'll do that. All right. Anything else, Kevin, that you want to
I really like the show. It's called From the Box, since the Galaxy are scoring all their goals from the box. It's like, come here and get a goal.
Yes. I always explain this, and I swear the light bulb turns on from somebody every time. We call it Corner of the Galaxy from the box because obviously from the penalty box, that's from inside the 18 is inside the box. And then also from the box is the press box as well. And being we both sit in the press box, that's why this show is Corner of the Galaxy from the box. That's why we have, Corner of the Galaxy from the box, Corner of the Galaxy from the spot. Haha, another one.
That would be good.
That's one we do. That's like the after the game sort of reporting that I do. A little stand up. I've just flew in from Vegas and boy, my arm's tired.
Corner of the Galaxy from the tap room.
From the tap. From the tap in. Maybe we could figure out. Yeah, there's got to be something going on there. But yeah, just a reminder again, just in case you haven't heard me the first 30 or 40 times, live show coming up on July 31st. Tickets can be found at cornerofthegalaxy.com live. $5 tickets. Go ahead and sign up there, and then we'll see you. I'll give you more details as it comes out. 4:30 p.m. doors open. 5:30 p.m. live show starts. So plenty of time to get some food, get some drinks before the show starts. Then we'll do a show from 5:30 to 7, basically a 90-minute show, and then birthday beers after that.
I think you have a typo. Shouldn't that be tap? Shouldn't that be apostrophe S?
No, apparently not. I don't look at me. Why would you even question any of this?
That's really close to your office, by the way.
It is. It's close to the studio. Everybody knows that. It's right down the street. So that's why you do it. Aaron points out, by the way, I also used to do Corner of the Galaxy Short Corner. See? That was another one because those were shorter podcasts.
Yeah.
There we go. Michael Ramirez, by the way, gave us a quick $5 super chat. Says, once again, I'm asking Josh to sneak me into his birthday podcast. Michael, you just paid me $5. You could have used that $5 to buy the ticket to get in. So
wow.
Yeah, I was just saying. By the way, again, very serious. If you can't afford it, show up anyway. You're not going to be kicked out. Everybody's welcome. We're treating this more as a donation. We appreciate your support. Obviously, what you do here on the channel, the super chats, everything you guys do is amazing. And we can't wait to see you out there. I'm so pumped for this. I cannot handle it. Like, I love doing this.
It's like NPR or PBS again. It's like you make a donation, but if you can't, you can still listen to the show.
That's right. We just appreciate it. And if you can't do any of that, Michael, there's no underage. It's all ages. You could, if you're 3 years old, you can show up. I imagine that Jake is going to be there. My 19 month old. He'll be.
If you make a donation, you get a tote bag.
No, there's no tote bag. There's no DVD. Of the thing. There's not a 7-set DVD of all the places in Europe you could travel to. Thanks, Rick Steves. Yeah. Anyway, so that's where we're at. I think we're good.
The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is underwriting the...
I'd gladly take $1 billion or so to have this event, so that's fine with me. All right, that does it. We will go on Thursday again, get you ready for this game against Vancouver, tell you what happened in the media call as well, so that Thursday show will be an important one. Make sure you check that one out live right here, cornerofthegalaxy.com. Anything else?
We'll see you next time from Tokyo.
Oh, maybe. Maybe. We'll see if you go. If you don't go, I'll keep my fingers crossed. But you at least want to go get the points, so hopefully you fly there.
Yeah, if I land and they say the Olympics are canceled, you have to go back. Got the airline points.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. All right. If you're looking for Mr. Kevin Baxter on Twitter, it's at KBaxter11. Please head on over to Corner of the Galaxy, LATimes.com. That's where you can find all of Kevin's writings. He has a great newsletter that's out there as well. Check that out. It comes out every Tuesday morning. Yeah, Tuesday morning because it's Monday, the whole deal. Yeah, so Tuesday morning. So make sure you check that out. If you're looking for me on Twitter, at Guesman, JGUESMAN, and of course at Galaxy Podcast, cornerofthegalaxy.com. Live show July 31st. Get your tickets. cornerofthegalaxy.com. Click on the live button. The link for the tickets is right there for you. All right, hopefully we'll see you there. Hopefully we'll see you at the game coming up at the end of the month. Hopefully you'll be watching the LA Galaxy take on the Vancouver Whitecaps coming up this weekend. All right, for Mr. Kevin the Pant Baxter, I'm Josh Pato Guesman. You've been listening. You've been watching to Corner of the Galaxy from the box on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo. And on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.